What's up, everybody? Brothers, sisters, psychonauts, and seekers of truth. It is Ananka, and welcome to my bazaar. Today, I have a 2C-T-21 trip report for you. The title of this trip report is Electronic Entertainment, and was submitted to Erowid in 2003 by the user Matt himself. With all that being said, let our story begin. October 11th, 2003. When I first bought Pical, one of the things that caught my attention was the long list of chemicals in the back of the book. The section was entitled Book 2, The Chemical Story. I looked at many of the psychedelic phenethylamines and thought to myself about how many of them I would never have the privilege of tasting. When reading up on 2C-T2 and 2C-T7, I followed the list of 2CTX compounds until I reached 2C-T21. The qualitative comments on 2C-T21 made it sound like a pleasant chemical. While it didn't sound as wonderful as 2CT2 or 2CT7 sounded, it still seemed like something I would like to try. I assumed, though, that no one would ever bother making this drug. Then one day, I had the good fortune on getting some. There was little to no information about this drug which existed outside of Pical. This both worried me and excited me. I was worried about the risks involved, but I was excited thinking that I would be among the first people to try this drug. While I and others have found Shulgin to be very conservative with his doses, I decided it would be best to follow his guideline until more about this drug was known. I opted to go with 10 milligrams, which was the average dose of his given spectrum. I carefully weighed out my dose and put it inside of an empty capsule. Then I headed off to work, where I sat counting the minutes until I could leave and start my adventure. I'll take this time to note two things. First, I have just quit smoking cigarettes, again, so my body was feeling a bit healthier. But in contrast to that, I have been suffering from a cold, so I do not feel physically great, somewhat of a contradiction. I got out of work at 10:15 p.m. I was planning on spending the evening with some friends. I talked to my friends on the phone, and we decided to meet at the local Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then decide where we would go. First, R and I went back to my house, so I could change out of my work clothes. When I finished changing, I opened a bottle of water from my refrigerator. I got my little pill, took a deep breath, and swallowed it. The time was 10:30 p.m. We went outside and got into R's car. It was exceptionally warm for a night in October. We drove over to Kentucky Fried Chicken, where we found our friends waiting. There were 8 of us, including R and myself. We went into the restaurant to order food. I had fasted all day, so the smell of chicken and grease made my mouth water. I knew many of the 2CTXs produced nausea, and that adding fried food probably wouldn't help. But I was so hungry, so I decided that I would just deal with the nausea if it came up. I placed my order, which came quickly, and sat down to eat. The food was very good and didn't create any stomach problems. With the exception of R, myself, and my friend M, all of the others are away at college. They had all returned home for the weekend, though, so our time in the restaurant was spent sharing stories of recent things that had happened. I really do miss hanging out with all of them on a daily basis. It makes me cherish the time we have together even more. I notice at this moment that my thinking is a bit altered. I look at my watch and it is 11:30. I look over at the floor panels of the restaurant and see slight shimmering. There may even be a very slight patterning occurring. I am at a +1 at the moment. We leave KFC just before midnight. The drug is definitely working, but its effects feel quite undefined still. What I feel is definitely psychedelic. There are definitely some visuals, and I can lose myself in thought if I try to. I don't find any of it a push yet, though. Everyone decides to go to M's house. I get back into R's car and we head off. I close my eyes to see if anything is going on. Vivid geometric patterns dance behind my eyelids. After a while, the patterns shift and create a tunnel. I move down the tunnel along with R's driving. When she makes a turn, so do I. It was really pleasant. At M's house, some of us went outside to smoke a joint. I was at a +2 at this point and feeling pretty good. I had yet to note any negative side effects. Whenever it is my turn, I take deep lungfuls of marijuana smoke. When I exhaled, one of my friends laughed and said, "I'm proud of you, son. That was a big hit." This made me laugh uncontrollably. Back inside, more stories came out. This time, though, they were funnier and more intense. I was now at a +3, but still very much in control. I don't know if it was the marijuana or the 2C-T-21, but I was very giggly. The last psychedelic that made me go off into fits of laughter was psilocybin, regardless of which was playing more of a role in my behavior. I was really enjoying myself. A little after 1 a.m., people started to head out. I said goodbye, and R and I left. The ride home was much like the ride there. I played the tunnel game the entire ride. We reached my house, went inside, and headed down to my basement. The visuals were stronger now. There was noticeable patterning and wiggling all around the room. At no point did they become as intense as 2C-T7 visuals, but they were nice to look at nonetheless. R and I watched TV for a while. Crank Yankers was on Comedy Central, and while TV usually bores me when I'm tripping, I found it absolutely hilarious. I was laughing so loud that R kept reminding me to quiet down or else wake my parents. After the show ended, R and I made love. 2C-T-21 worked excellent in a sexual setting. The intimacy levels went through the roof, and the tactile sensations were greatly enhanced. The whole act was so beautiful that I almost couldn't handle it. 2C-T-21 is definitely one of the best drugs I've taken as far as enhancing sex. I walked R out to her car in the night, which was still warm. While I hugged her, I noticed the moon. It was a full moon which pierced through the clouds, casting bands of light everywhere. One seemed to be shining right down on us. It seemed to illuminate everything we have together. I kissed her good night, and I came back downstairs. I went to my computer and went on IRC. It was after 2 a.m., and no one seemed to be on. In AOL Instant Messenger, no one was awake either. At this point, something happened that rarely happens to me on a psychedelic. I became bored. I could stop and think more introspectively if I chose to, but it didn't seem to appeal to me. I put on Radiohead's OK Computer, which has a beautiful sound to it. The music seemed to enhance things a bit, but I was still bored. When the CD ended, I put on the Beatles' Abbey Road. At this point, I began to think about life. Currently, I am enrolled in a community college, due to my lack of effort in high school. I thought about the professors I have and how fortunate it is that I get along with all of them. I also thought about my grades. My lowest grade at the moment is an A-, which for me is absolutely exceptional. I was very proud of myself. For the first time in my life, I was motivated to actually work to achieve my goals. This made me happy. After I finished thinking about all that, I looked at the clock. It was just before 4 a.m. Visuals were still there, but they seemed slightly milder. Given the duration Pical lists, I expected I was now on the decline. I took 150 milligrams of diphenhydramine and 6 milligrams of melatonin and headed into my room to lie down. Usually when I go into my room as the trip winds down, I tend to listen to music or just think. But again, I was bored. I turned on my GameCube and played Super Mario Sunshine. I have tried playing video games tripping before, and I got very bored with them. This time, however, I loved it. I felt more in tune with the game, and I seemed to be able to anticipate enemy moves. I realized that for the past 2 hours, I felt more like I was stoned than tripping. I played my game until around 5:30 a.m., where I drifted off into sleep. I woke up at 3 p.m., where I showered and headed off to work. This is going to be a tough conclusion to write. I fear what I will write may make this the next chemical people use to make a quick buck. I just hope people will be more responsible than that and use this report to educate themselves. That being said, 2C-T-21 was one of the best socializing drugs I have ever used. It is up there with MDMA in the aspect of making people want to talk. The overall trip had absolutely no negative side effects. There was no nausea at all. There was no annoying body load, which is often attributed to 2CTX drugs. The visual aspect was entertaining, but at no point overwhelming. It was similar to 2CC visuals in my opinion. The only real problem with this drug is the mental aspect. For me, 2CT21 offered little mental stimulation. I felt more as if I had smoked a joint or used a narcotic. I didn't feel stupid, but doing things such as playing video games or watching TV was more rewarding than thinking. My favorite psychedelics have been the ones which offered me good introspection. 2CT21 lacked that for me. I could be introspective, but the desire to be wasn't there. I didn't really understand nor care at the time, but in retrospect, that part let me down. Any psychedelic that allows me to sit and be bored does not make the top of my list. Will I use this again? I'm sure I will. It definitely had a nice feeling to it. It actually reminded me a lot of 2CC. The visuals and body feeling were very similar to me. The only difference is that 2CC gives you the options of thinking deeply. 2CT21 almost tried to make me avoid such thinking. Perhaps another trial might yield different results. I think I would like to try this drug at a concert or party. At the current time, this drug seems more like a party toy than anything else. 2CT21 is not one of my favorites, but it was a friendly drug nonetheless, and it was a good experience. Alright, everybody. That is the end of our story. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Share with us your 2CT21 experiences down in the comments below. Check out the other videos and playlists on my channel, and I will see you in the next one, fam. Deuces.